Guys, with all the news in the UK about property investment, landlords, the Labour government targeting landlords, is it now time to sell the portfolio? Is it time for people to invest in other assets? And is it a time for newbies not to do property? And in this video, we're going to go through every option and I'm going to explain to you what I'm currently doing and what I believe is the future for investment in creating wealth in the UK. Let's get to it. So, I want you guys to remember one of the key sayings which I kind of say in every video, which is a Warren Buffett saying, which is be greedy only. A lot of people forget the only bit, only when others are fearful. Well, now's the time, guys. There's a lot of fear in the market. There's a lot of landlords exiting. There's a lot of people waiting for the budget. We had properties in auction, trade properties last month, and none of them really sold because people are waiting for the budget and they anticipated changes, which I believe will only make it better for landlords. But anyway, you could see the state of the market. A lot of landlords exiting. People don't know what to buy, what to do. And I'm here to go through all of that in this week's video. I'm just going to go back to a comment which someone made on one of my videos last week, which really made me think, briefly, consider what they said and also consider if it would apply to other people. And what they said was, you seem to live abroad, you've got a large portfolio, seems a lot of work, why don't you just put it all in stocks and live off the dividends? Which, to be fair, a lot of people when they sell businesses, they'll buy a bit of property, but they'll buy a lot of stocks and shares and they'll live off the dividends. So could I potentially sell a £10 million portfolio, put it all into stocks and shares? I mean, yes, it would be relatively safe. In the FTSE 100, a spread risk, maybe through an investment, like a lot of people have Vanguard, use Vanguard for portfolios and maybe get 10% if I'm lucky returns. That seems alright, doesn't it? Because most landlords aim for 10% return on the money in property. It's actually seen as a good deal if you get a 10% yield. I mean, I never really use yield calculations. I think they're very simplistic and for newbies, but even seasoned landlords use yield. If we're ever selling properties, HMOs are everyone the first, even if they've got 100 properties, what do they ask? What is the yield? So if we're getting 10% yield on a HMO, which we do, or 12 or 15%, but let's say it's 10% after maintenance, why would we not invest the same money in stocks and shares, have no headache with tenants, no maintenance, and still get our 10%? Now that is, on the face of it, a valid question, guys. That is actually quite valid. Could I sit here and argue against that right now? Potentially, and I'll go into it now. But on the face of it, it does seem valid. If I'm pitching out a HMO to our clients at a 10% yield, you know, without maintenance and without voids and without estate agent costs maybe. But the main wealth creator and why I wouldn't have been able to put 10k into stocks and shares and now be worth 10 million. I've checked it on ChatGPT, I've checked it on the FTSE 100, tracking back to when I started my property portfolio in 2008, and I'll go into it now, but clearly it wouldn't be that return. Let's go into it now actually, so I'll tell you what the return was. So I'll go into ChatGPT. Okay, so comparing returns. So FTSE 100, if your initial 10,000 grew to 15 to 17,000 pounds, including dividends over 14 years, that's a much lower return compared to the property. So what they're saying is, what ChatGPT is saying is, your initial 10,000 in stocks and shares from 2008 would have grown to 17,000 including dividends over the last 14 years. It's not the greatest return, but even if it was higher, even if it was 30,000, even if it was 100,000, it still wouldn't be nowhere near the millions I'm at now. And the reason for that, guys, is leverage. Leverage is the number one wealth creator in property. Yes, I mean, even if you put, even if you bought cash, you'd still have better returns than shares, but I think it would be closely matched. But with leverage, remember, you're using the £10,000 as a deposit and you're buying, for example, let's say on simplistic terms, a 100k property. But when the capital appreciation occurs, you get the capital appreciation on the 100k, not the 10k. Does that make sense? So you're only using 10k. So if you had 50k, you could, what most investors come to me, they'd have 50 or 100k, and you split it up, so you put on a simplistic basis, obviously it's not 10% deposit anymore because you're not a first time buyer, but let's just say it's 10% for argument's sake. Obviously 20%, 25% is the norm for buy to let, so your returns, you can buy less, but it still works. So you buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get capital appreciation, capital appreciation, capital appreciation, cap appreciation, appreciation again, plus the rental, plus the rental, plus the rental, plus the rental, plus the rental. So you bought 5 assets, so you turn that 50k into, argument's sake, 1, 2, 3, 4, £500,000. So 50k equals 500,000. Obviously it's a bit less now if you do 25% deposit, but we're doing this for first time buyers as well. £500,000. If you get 10% a year on £500,000, it's 50k a year, guys, which is achievable in property and in shares. In shares, what would you get? You get 10% a year on 50k, which is 5k a year if you're lucky. Obviously, with the ChatGPT, it's done it from 2008 when there was a crash as well, so that's why the returns aren't as high as you'd probably assume in terms of shares as well. So, as you can see, that leverage is basically using mortgage or other people's money. Is another one of using investors or mortgage debt. Not all my clients like mortgages, but they'll use investors as well. So, but either way, you get 10% on the 50k in shares. You can't leverage shares. You can't, unless you're very, very sophisticated investor, hedge fund, bank. Very unlikely are you going to be able to use leverage in shares. By the way, guys. I mean, you can do it on Bitcoin and stuff, but it's very risky and it's very complicated, and there's a margin call at about 50% loan to value anyway, and we're much higher here, so just bear that in mind. But anyway, so 5k on 50k, or 10% on 50k, 5k a year, 10% capital appreciation on 500k, 50k a year. You can then tap into this. This is how I build my portfolio. In a couple of years, that'll be 100k, obviously. You can then remortgage. You then take the 50k, put it into more properties, do exactly the same. So in 2 years, you have 100k to remortgage. You might get 70k out of that with a loan to value. You then use that 70k to do exactly the same thing. And it's a very, very nice circle. Remember, guys, that's not even including rental income. So let's say you get 1,000, so you get 5k a month, minus your mortgages, probably 2.5k a month, 3k a month, depending on who you rent to, HMOs, etc. You got your maintenance and stuff. Let's just call it 2.5k a month over the 5 properties. That also goes in to that calculation. Yes, on shares you get dividends, but they're nowhere near as much as rental income. The other risk you've got with shares is if the company goes into liquidation, has a lawsuit, the shares can drop overnight, and what can you do? Your dividends drop, your shares drop. It's up to them even if they pay dividends, to be fair. It's not always fixed. So property, you're in control, it's your assets, you can drive past it, you can sell it. Yes, it's not as passive as shares, but when you're trying to build wealth, you need active income. Active investing is high profits than the average. If you want to make above average profit, above average salary, you have to do above average investing, right? You can't just go, well, everyone's investing in FTSE 100, middle range, risk appetite, let me do that and I'm going to beat the average. You're not going to beat the average, you're going to get the same as everyone else. To get an advantage, a financial advantage, to become wealthy above the norm, you have to do above the norm investing. And what that means is active investing, high profits, and this is where sourcing really comes into it. I've learned over 14 years how to source properties. Every property I buy is below market value. What does that mean? What that means is I can now go on to infinite returns. Infinite returns means basically I put 50k into a property, and because it's so below market value, I'll remortgage it in 6 months or even less, and I'll get 40k, 50k back. I'll get all my cash back, and it'll be remortgaged, company debt. Remember, none of this is on my own name, it's a limited company which I'm the director of, so it doesn't affect your credit. But the point is, guys, you then get infinite returns because you've still got the 50k back in your bank, and you've got the property capital appreciation. You get 100% of that. You get the rental income. Yes, your mortgage will be higher because you've remortgaged. You probably pay £150 a month extra on the mortgage. But the point is, you've got infinite returns then. How can you argue with infinite returns? How could you argue with that? Especially if you're buying in very good areas where there's capital appreciation and not in areas where you're forcing the valuation. For example, in Middlesbrough, let's take that example. So you're buying in Middlesbrough and suddenly you're trying to remortgage for a HMO for a commercial valuation of 300k. You might get it based on, you know, rental income 4.5 times or whatever the yield multiplier is. So yes, just to say that again. For example, if you're forcing a commercial valuation on a Serco rented property in Middlesbrough, you might get it based on yield. You might get the multiplier you want. You might say there's 6 rooms at £700. We might get a valuation of 380,000. Who's going to buy that off you when you want to exit? And is other properties ever going to catch up to that? You've got a problem there, haven't you, when you want to exit? I mean, not everyone exits. They pass it on to family. Maybe one day it will be worth 400k Middlesbrough, but that's a very risky strategy, and I don't do that personally. Remember, guys, a key tip is, will someone with money want to buy your asset in the future? Will the smart money makes smart money. That's why art appreciates amongst billionaires and millionaires, because only they buy it. Same with the Richard Mille watches, right? If you ever looked at the price of those watches, you could see why they fetch such high value, because people with money flock to them. When people, or LaFerraris, or any prized asset which is in short supply, and if the smart money goes there, like a Da Vinci painting, is a good investment. Now, obviously with art you've got nuances. Certain communities it could change over the time, and it's a very risky strategy, but it's still a good investment, especially the aristocrats and stuff. They invest in that. Now, the key test here is in property is, will someone with money who's of high intelligence, you know, a smart investor, will they want to buy that asset of you in the future? And not only will one person, will multiple people want to buy that asset of you? Because if they do, that asset will always increase in value. So where I'm investing up north, a lot of smart money from London. Most of my clients now from down south are investing there. Hedge funds, like I said in the last video, hedge funds, banks, all buying up north, getting multiple requests every day. Even people from abroad, your Chinese investors, your UAE investors are buying, you know, up north. So you've got like sovereign wealth funds, Qatari wealth funds, UAE wealth funds buying in Manchester. So people with money, smart money, is chasing those assets. So it's a good place to put your money. This is really pertains to property sourcing. I get numerous properties offered to me every day: Barnsley, Middlesbrough, County Durham. Guys, as someone in Hong Kong, a sophisticated investor, sat in an asset fund manager, heard of County Durham or Middlesbrough? And if they have, are they desperate to buy there? Or are they desperate to buy Manchester? Or around the north, or Liverpool? Do you see what I mean? So that's how you select your properties. If you're going to follow the strategy, get the maximum capital appreciation with the less risk. That's not to say that small areas can pop up and do well, but in terms of risk appetite and getting that fast money, we don't want to wait 30 years for capital appreciation in a town that's unheard of and wait for it to be discovered. So that's one of the things. Now, people ask me as well, is it too late to buy up north? Is it too late to buy New York or Manhattan? Or do investors still do very well buying there? Do rich people from the UK, from all around the world, Russians, Chinese, still buy New York? Yes, they do. It's not too late. Especially Manchester is a very immature market, actually. It's actually, funny enough, being likened to Manhattan. The skyline's developing like that, and wealth filters outwards. So we're buying now in other areas outside Manchester where it will obviously expand and we'll get the wealth. So it's never too late, guys. If you're going to ask me, is it too late in London for your yields? Yes, because in London a 400k house will not yield the same as up north. So imagine how many properties, we're still picking up properties in the northwest for 150k, and in London you're getting them for 400k. So that's the difference. Guys, if you want to invest up north as well, comment below. yes, and I'll get you the free investment guide and potentially we could work together in terms of sourcing and helping you grow your portfolio. But the point being is property better than other investments, specifically stocks and shares? I'll go into Bitcoin in a minute. No. Why? Because of leverage. Now, let's say you don't use leverage. Let's say you have 50k and you put it into stocks and shares, and you have 50k and put it into a property. Now, this is a little bit harder because 50k is not going to buy you a property anymore. So now you're going to have to look to the lesser areas like I talked about, Middlesbrough, etc., which you still can't get 50k. Maybe some areas around Newcastle you can. But the point being is you're still going to get 10% return on capital appreciation and the rental income from the 50k. So you might get 500 quid a month from that, and you might get 10%, or maybe even 5% probably up north, Newcastle, somewhere like that, lesser than the northwest. So it still beats stocks and shares. Now, interestingly, if you had 100k, let's argument's sake, I source your property in Manchester for 100k from auction or from our off-market sources, for example, then you're going to get 10 grand a month capital appreciation. You're going to get probably 10 grand a year rent. You're not going to get that from 100k in shares, guys. So this is why property beats other investments. Property is the #1 wealth creator in the UK. But not only that, guys, it's a very good equalizer. If you're a young guy, you've got no assets like me when I started, or you're new into the country, this is why a lot of people who've done well, who didn't have grandparents here, first generation kind of immigrants, buy property, because it's a very good wealth equalizer. You haven't inherited land or property in the UK, and property is the way to get your foot there for future generations. That's why a lot of smart money buy property. And obviously people who have inherited farms or wealth from their grandparents in the UK or the parents before that, they still buy property because they can see what it's done for the family. So that's my take on it. Now, with Bitcoin, can you make more in property, and would you have made more in property than Bitcoin if I'd invested from 2008? Obviously, guys, the return on Bitcoin is into the thousands. Okay, it far exceeds property. But did anyone know that? No. That's like saying, well, if I knew I was going to win the lottery, I would have bought a ticket and not invested in property. Yes, but people buying pizzas with Bitcoins, so no one knew, did they? Now, am I now in a position where I'm making 60k a month and I might chuck 5k a month into Bitcoin? Potentially, because now it's proven. But can you live like that on a month? So my lifestyle is funded with cars, villas, holidays constantly. If you follow me on Instagram, Live Online, you'll see all of that. Can that be funded by Bitcoin? Because when you wake up tomorrow, Bitcoin could have dropped 20%. Can I then pay my rent? Then can I pay my cars? Can I pay my holidays? Can I pay my, my extravagances, my fashion, look after everyone, pay salaries to family members, etc.? No, because I don't know next month I wake up and Bitcoin's dropped 20%. If I'll be able to pay it. Second of all, is it a monthly consistent income? No, you don't get rental income or any dividends from Bitcoin. So it's going to be very hard for you to do that. Most people who come to me want to quit their job and get 10k a month. You can't get 10k a month passive on Bitcoin. Yes, you can make a lot, and yes, it could double overnight. You could make more than 10k, but you could also lose it. You could also 1 month not have any returns and then struggle to pay your bills. Whereas with property, most of our clients are already in a year on 5k a month and they use that to live. So obviously there's two aspects: property, capital appreciation, and rental income, and you get both. So you can live month to month, and in the future you get capital appreciation. So yes, I believe it beats Bitcoin. That's not to say I'm totally averse to it, but I'm in a different position now. And if I was starting again, I certainly wouldn't be putting 10k into Bitcoin and hoping that would change my life. But I would put 10k into property, do exactly the same which I've done, and do this exactly the same again. This is still possible, guys. This exact model, using leverage, buying below market value, remortgaging out, getting a rental income, and doing it again and again and again, and ploughing all the profits back in until you're nice, until you're worth a few mil. People are still doing it today. I've got clients who are 21, starting the same journey I started when I was 21, doing exactly the same thing. In fact, they're doing it faster than me now, because when I started, I didn't have all the contacts to buy below market value properties. Now I do. Now I can find one any day of the week and it goes to clients, right? But I wasn't doing that. So why I've only got 38 properties and the portfolio is only 10 mil and not 100 mil is because I had to wait a year. And remember, I bought in 2008, so it was a financial crash as well. I had to wait a year before buying another property, so one property, then another property. So you could, and then it got better. So like in 1 year, I bought 10 properties once, right? So now, if you buy below market value every 6 months, you can remortgage every 3 months potentially as well. We've done remortgaging 3 months for clients, and use the money and buy another one and do exactly the same thing. So you could build a portfolio a lot faster than 10 years now. You can do it in 5 years. But it is active. It is a job as such. I mean, I don't work every day. I only look over the accounts and stuff. You will have maintenance, but you can't make money by just putting money into a average fund and expecting to beat the average. It's not going to happen, guys. Active investing, below market value properties, you know. So that's where we're at. Okay, now let's just have a look, going back to ChatGPT, let's just look at the returns for property from 2008. So on one property, this is, guys, with £10,000 invested. Remember, I've got 38 properties, but let's tell you my first property, according to ChatGPT, it's not far off actually, it's pretty much bang on. Let me show you what I would have made. So I put 10,000 into properties on a buy-to-let mortgage. My potential capital gains is 60 to 70k if sold for 160 to 170,000 pounds. You don't have to sell to realise your gains in property, which is amazing. In Bitcoin, you have to sell, don't you? In property, you don't have to sell. You could remortgage. So if it sold for 160, 170k. So actually, funnily enough, the property was valued at 175k. So it's pretty much bang on. So that's bang on. This I'm talking about the first property, not all the others I bought. Okay. Rental income. Assuming 5% annual yield on an average of 150k over 14 years, that could add around £105,000 in gross rental income minus expenses. Guys, I got more than 5% because I was doing it as a HMO. So my returns on that property were 16, then it's more now, but I'm just thinking about 2009 when it was rented. It's about £1,600 a month. Okay, so it was about 10%, not 5%. Slightly less with the expenses and the mortgage, but let's say it was around 8%. But let's go on a worst case scenario. Let's say you didn't do it as HMO and you did it as a normal single let. Okay, and you had some void periods, etc. So 5%. Okay, so you've got now 70k worth of capital gains profit. So I'm selling this property, let's say, now to 2024. I've got 70k worth of capital gains profit. I've got £105,000 in gross rental income. So if you add that together, £175,000 gain from one property. Times that by 10, times that by 20 properties, times that by 30, you can see how I made the money. That's literally as simple as that. You can go on ChatGPT and ask it how to build a portfolio. This is exactly what I did, guys. So the only golden nugget I'd give you from this is when you're getting that rental income, you compound it. You don't keep it in a separate account, which is so ChatGPT is assuming that the gross rental income wasn't reinvested. So if you don't reinvest it, this is all you'll have, which is, you know, you might not be able to get the 30 plus properties. But if you reinvest that gross rental income every year, you put that you put that 10k or whatever it is a year back into property, exactly the same model, and then you look at it over 14 years. In 14 years' time, you're obviously going to have more than that. That's assuming you spent all the rental income and you didn't reinvest it in the same business. So to grow the business, you have to continuously reinvest. And when I mean reinvest, I don't mean doing up the property every year. None of that, because that won't get you the capital growth. What I'm saying is doing the minimum, getting that money out, not even touching it. Minimum maintenance, as in the cheapest maintenance, not going over the top with your refurbs, getting that remortgage and bang it with the rental income into another property straight away as fast as possible. And that's how you're going to get to the 30 plus properties with this gain. Now, another thing which has just come to my head then is, okay, so you made double than me or triple than me on Bitcoin. How are you going to realise the gains? You're going to have to sell it, move to a tax-free country, cash out and live off it. But that's, even if you make 10 mil, right, it's going to disappear, isn't it? A lot of people ask me why I don't sell the portfolio now and cash out 10 mil. Guys, 10 mil can disappear. A villa in Marbella is a couple of mil. A car's 200k, holidays are 10k a time, right? That money's going to disappear. What are you going to do then? Put it in a bank like Coots, get like 8%, 10%. But it's a lot of money to put in one bank, you know. And then you're getting 10k a month. Well, I get more than 10k a month from the portfolio. So I get like over 50k a month. So it doesn't match either. And then I'll never be able to buy in those areas again. So that is the beauty of property. And that's why when people win the lottery, when footballers get millions on the bonuses or from a salary, when people sell businesses, a lot of the time they buy property. A lot more times than not they'll buy property. Whether it's here, abroad, they'll spread the risk. But as I said, you buy somewhere where smart money will always want or flock to, you'll never lose out, guys. So that's my take on it. And guys, that's why I personally am not selling. I'm not investing in stocks and shares. I'm messing about with Bitcoin just for a bit of fun. But that's only on excess rental income. That's not on the main business, okay? I'm never going to sell. If I want to sell, I'll just remortgage to the max, enjoy that money and still have the assets going up, and every 5-6 years remortgage again. Why would I sell? I don't have any tax to pay. Capital gains tax is not applicable to remortgages. So when I do a remortgage and I get 70k in the bank, it's tax free. So all these benefits you can do with property, which you can't do with other assets. So another point it makes on FTSE 100 is, on ChatGPT is, actual results would depend on specific property location, market conditions, and management of the investment. This is crucial, guys. And actually, I'm sorry I missed it out earlier. Actual results would depend on specific property location. Correct. You can outperform the figures we've just done by investing in areas such as the north with higher capital appreciation, buying below market value, higher rental amounts, higher yields. Market conditions, okay, so market conditions, I take that as, is the conditions right for bargains? Because when I was buying after the crash, everyone then started ploughing into buy-to-let because the rates were so low. And as Warren Buffett said, interest rates are gravity on asset prices. So when interest rates are high, the gravity pulls the asset prices down. When interest rates are low, which they have been for the last 14 years, which I've been, 12 years, which I've been buying, the last 3 years have gone up, asset prices increase. So I see market conditions as how many competitors are there in the market, how many people are buying, because the more people that are buying, the harder it is to get the value in the deals, because when there's a boom, people will overpay for anything and you won't find your below market value properties. Guys, it's completely opposite now. So many people are selling, we're getting deals every day, and loads of landlords are exiting. They don't even know how to evict the tenants, so they're selling tenanted properties at 30% below market value because they can't get a viewing. First time buyers can't even view, so we're buying properties without viewing. All my clients who've done really well, bought properties, gone, yep, I'll have it as tenanted, we'll deal with that afterwards. I bought it, paying 30k less on 100k. So, and that's your money, your deposit, so you're getting all your money back out. Imagine if you've got a tenanted property and trying to sell it. Your tenant's not going to let 10 people view on a weekend, are they? So you're not going to get the best buyer. You're going to, the best buyers are generally first-time buyers or cash buyers. They are not going to buy a tenanted property. They don't even know when the tenant's moving out. So Guys, you can get deals at the moment, and that's what I see as market conditions. So at the moment they're ripe, and that's why I'm going again, because you go through stages in property. You build, you fall back, you go hard again, you relax again. You can't always go hard. This is the time now where the last 2 years have been pretty much chilled, a couple here, a couple there. Last year I did quite a lot. This year and next year, I am buying loads because of this. And to be honest with you, 2 years ago, after COVID, it was terrible to buy. It was terrible. I mean, I bought properties, I only made 10, 20k on them. Okay? Because everyone was buying, because the interest rates were non-existent and Bitcoin was going up, asset prices were going up, properties were increasing, but you paid more to buy them. Okay, so it was a very good time for the portfolio. Did loads of remortgages, stacked that into a fund, and that's ready to go out again. So I always send my money out to get more assets. They're like soldiers for me. I send it out. I know in 6 months it's coming back in, but I've got that asset paying 2k a month on a HMO, for example. The money comes back in on a remortgage. Maybe not all of it. Maybe I leave 10k in that property, 20k. But I get the majority back, and it goes out again. I send it out again into war, into another property, and then bring it back again. But the last 2 years, I've been just stacking it, remortgaging when the property values are high, keeping that and knowing. Now, if I kept that money, maybe I should have put it in Bitcoin, to be fair, because it's better than the bank. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. It's there now. It's ready to go into property, which I would have done anyway. Straight back out. I mean, we're getting some phenomenal deals. I've just agreed a price on a HMO for 235k. It's a 6-bed HMO in the northwest, already running from a landlord who's exiting the market. He doesn't know what he's doing. He bought properties about 3 years ago. I think he's making a loss on it. The property is being valued desktop-wise at 285k. I then rang the broker and said, can I get a commercial revalue? He said, do a little bit of work on it, tart it up a bit, nice paint scheme, make sure all the compliance is there. We'll get you 380k on it, easily on a reval, and that's areas not Article 4 yet. When it becomes Article 4, it'll get higher. So I'm going to get all my money out plus some there, and I'm going to have an asset making a gross 6k a month, because the rent's going to go up, because a bed sits basically, so you get a kitchenette and a bathroom. And we've tested the market there with one of my other clients, and we got £800 in a week. I think it was less than a week he rented it. So this landlord's got 2 of these, so I'm hoping to buy the other one. So that's the deals we're getting at the moment. And if I don't buy it, it goes to clients. So my client bought his first one, and then because we've dealt with the estate agent now, they want to sell to us because they know we don't mess about. We don't ask for multiple viewings, go through mortgages, etc. We're bridging it. So you can see the bargains we're getting, guys. So obviously I'm going to send 65k or whatever the deposit is out to that in 6 months, get it back, buy his other one, and then still have the assets making money. So as you can see, it's a much better investment than FTSE 100 or even Bitcoin, because I'm getting all the money out. You know, it's even better than Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin 10x's, I'm getting all the money out. So it's infinite returns. If I put that 60k into Bitcoin now and it doubles overnight, I'm going to get 120k back. Okay. If I put that 60k into the property, get 70k back on the remortgage, and get 6k a month rental income, which one's a better investment? And that's assuming Bitcoin goes up 50%, which it could do, and that people would see that as a very, very healthy return, and what probably more than they expect, 50% increase towards the end of the year. Okay, from now to the end of the year, but I'm doing that. I'm getting infinite on that property, and there's deals like that. Not always HMOs that always make 6k a month, but you know, might get a 100k house and you need 25k deposit, and you're going to get it all back and get 600 quid a month on the rent. So that's my take on it, guys. That is why I am not selling. That is why I'm not diversifying. I believe that if you diversify too much and you don't focus, you'll never make it. You'll just get an average return. If you focus on one asset, such as property, obviously people on this channel like property. If you focus on property and don't mess about and just focus, you're going to make your returns. And also, guys, focus on one area. If one area is doing really well for you, like it has done for me, yes, you can go outside the area, widen the radius, but don't buy one here, one somewhere else, one somewhere else. The reason being, you won't get the deals, you won't know the market. I know the market in Salford inside out. I can predict what the surveyor's going to give before, if I buy it. I know what to do with it to get the maximum value. I know how to get the maximum rent. There's people who know that for Birmingham. I don't buy in Birmingham, but there's people who know that for Birmingham, for example. I do source in Birmingham and etc. all around the country. But what I'm saying is, to build a portfolio of 20 properties, you really want to focus on one area if you can, and if it's working for you. Obviously, the key thing is if it's working for you. If it's not working for you, you get average returns. It's the wrong area anyway. I can point you to areas in the northwest where we're focusing on for clients. Doesn't mean that one client can only focus in one city. These are, there's more than enough for everyone, guys. So, and also banks don't like it if you've got 10 houses on the same road. So that's why we deal with clients as well. We're not going to buy 10 houses on one street. I don't mean that. That is a bit risky, to be fair. What I mean is focus on one area like the northwest. If you're buying in the northwest, you're not going to lose. And then people start coming to you. You'll know the estate agent. They'll come to you for deals. We get deals all the time. So what else can affect it? Expenses. So that's a big one. So keep the expenses lower and you'll get more, obviously make more. And that comes down to getting a good trades team. Again, going back to the same area, buying the same area, use the same people, use the same managers from, like your shops, your Howdens, your Selcos for the kitchens. Use the same people, build a rapport. They'll buy into what you're doing and help you. The amount of people have helped me along the way, estate agents in Salford or auction managers who've just helped me, not done any favours as such, but just kind of nodded and winked at you when you won a property. It makes a big difference psychologically, and it'll give you that push to, it'll help you that winning streak. And when you've got that winning streak, you just keep on going. It's not always the case, but when we see that momentum, that's when you keep and you put everything into it. When you got momentum, you do one good deal, you make 50k, for example, on a remortgage, or you sell it and you make 50k, you do a flip. That's when you go again harder. You don't then pull back and go, I'll just chill for a bit now. If you do that, yes, you'll make money, but if you go harder when you've got the momentum and you keep building it, that's when you make the millions. That's what I did. There was 2 years, I said earlier, where I bought 10 houses. In 1 year I bought 10 houses, next year I bought 8 or 7. Every house was buying below market value, every house was an HMO, every house was in Salford, and it's doubled now because I had the momentum. I was pipelining, so I was going to the estate agent, I'll buy that one. Oh, Niven, we've got this one coming up. Before it goes on, do you want it? So they want you to win, right? They'd rather help you than someone ringing up, messing about, tire kicking. Okay, yeah, I want it. Doesn't mean I'm buying 2 at once, guys. What it means is I'll complete on one property, okay, and then maybe 40 days later I'll buy the second one. And then the rent from this one and the remortgage will buy the third one. That's called a pipeline. Otherwise, you buy one property, you've got momentum, and then you look around for 6 months, and then it takes you 15 years to buy 10 properties. So always get the pipeline going, guys. Another top tip, people go to me, okay, I'll be ready for my next property in 4 months or 3 months, I'll contact you then. No, contact me now, because it's going to take 1 month to find it, for example, and then we'll go through conveyancing for another. If anyone's bought a house, obviously a lot of investors on the channel, you'll know how long it takes to buy a house, even if you buy cash. Auctions are 30 days, but if estate agents could be 60 days minimum. So you need to start now. You don't start now going, I'm ready to buy a property now. No, because then you'll have one in March. So always get the pipeline. A lot of people do that because of fear. They go, I'm not ready yet. I'll be ready in 3 months. 3 months come, I've spent 5k, so what can you get me 15k deposit? Nothing, guys. The property value is going up all the time, so we can't really get you what you could have got then. Oh no, what do I do then? Well, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Well, come back to me when you got 20k. Well, that's another 3 months now. Come back to me and say, it's already a year and they haven't got something. My best clients have been like, yes, now get me one. Been on at me. Maybe it's been 3 weeks, why haven't you found me a property, kind of thing. That's how we go in, and they'll say yes and then buy it and then on to the next one within 6 months. Property is not fast, but it can be fast if you do these steps as well. Now, guys, stocks and shares, tracker funds, ISAs are all old school investments. What you typically do is you typically get a 9 to 5. You get a good salary as a manager by the time you're 45, 40. You'll have £1,000 or £2,000 a month or whatever to invest, and you go to the bank and you put it into one of their tracker funds. They'd give you a cup of tea, you feel like you're part of a club, and you'd get 7% returns maybe every year. Okay? Is that going to make you rich? Is a bank going to make you rich? Or are they going to make themselves rich by you investing in their funds, you thinking that 7% is a good return because it outpaces inflation, which it does, and you're still in a job at 65 and then come out to a pension of £2,000 a month, probably less. It's not going to happen. That's the old way of doing stuff. Now, what they said, I read a report, the 9 to 5 is going to be not existent. I think it was in like 10 years or whatever. So you've got to really take control of your own destiny and your own investing, and don't rely on the government or your pension or jobs. You can see the attacks on, you can see the average middle class person now in the UK is worse off, you know. It's so squeezed, that middle income squeeze is massive. So you really need to take control, and you really need to get the highest returns possible on your money, because money makes money, but it's hard to make money in the first place. And that's why loads of people were, a recent comment, you know, what the Prime Minister said, a really idiotic comment, was that people who own assets are not working people. Well, how do you think the assets were purchased in the first place? No one gave you houses. No one gave me houses. No one gave my clients houses. They worked, saved a deposit, and then invested in assets. But that just shows the mentality of the government at the moment, that they want people to work and not own assets. And they want the big boys, the banks, the hedge funds to own the assets. So if you're getting punished for owning assets, what do? You hold the assets as a limited company. You join the club. You can't fight the wind, but what you can do is you can go, okay, well, I'm a big landlord now. Go hard or go home kind of mentality. You can't make money off one house on your personal name or 2 houses on your personal name anymore. You're going to lose money. You're going to get attacked. You're going to see as, oh, you own assets. Personally, we're going to go after you. That's the rhetoric from the government. If you own 30 houses in a limited company, Northwest Properties Limited, for example, just made up the name. Well, who owns that? No one knows, unless you really go into it on company's house. That's just a property company with investors. Oh no, we won't go after them because they're not we don't know who it is. It's not a guy who just owns loads. It's not a greedy landlord. It's a corporate. Remember, limited companies are a separate legal identity. Okay, that means that it's a person. A limited company is a separate. It's not, you know, it's not an individual. It's a separate. It's like a trust. It's something that owns property. It's a vehicle. That's how you professionalise yourself, and that's how you avoid getting targeted. Okay, that's why, guys, quickly, that's why you can't deduct mortgage interest anymore if you own properties in your personal name, and it could very much, it's a turnover tax, it's horrible, and it could very much take you into the higher tax bracket. That was actually devised by the Conservatives, okay? That's when the onslaught started. Well, in limited companies, you can. Why is that? You can just go online, pay £12 to set up a limited company, and then you don't pay that. Why is that? Why can you deduct all the expenses of a limited company, including your mortgage, but you can't as a person? Because what they see is a limited company is part of their club. It's part of the big boys who own. You might not be. You might only own one property in a limited company. What they're assuming is you won't set up a limited company unless you've got 100 houses, because it costs £600 a year to do a tax return if you don't want to do it yourself. Guys, pay it. The amount of clients I've got who still, I don't really deal with them because they're not professional enough, but the amount of clients go, I don't want to own property in limited prospective clients, I don't want to own property in a limited company. Why? I don't know. I don't want a limited company. Okay, well, there's no point being a landlord then, is there? Portfolio landlord. Because in a year, you're going to ring me up and go, why have I been taxed more than I made? Because you're not a limited company. Don't fight the wind, guys. You can see the change. It's been happening for years, actually. We're not reactionary here, we're predictory. And I actually saw this coming years ago. That's why I set up a limited company in 2016, right? But okay, you come into new property now, do that, follow these steps, you'll get on. But it's clear, guys, that assets make you money. That's why the Labour government don't want you to own assets. You do need to work to save the deposit for the asset, but once you've got the deposit, buy as many assets as you can. It will change your life. Guys, do me a favour. We got really good traction on the last video. I'll bring up more knowledge. I'm just emptying my brain now every week. Click subscribe, click like, help me out, and I'll help you out. Let's get it.